On the rundown for today's Philadelphia 76ers now, are the Sixers interested in Malcolm Brogdon? And is Philadelphia out on Dejounte Murray? But first, Glenn Rivers going from the ESPN broadcasting booth to the Milwaukee Bucks. Is there anybody who's failed upwards quite like Doc Rivers? And you already know what the result is going to be for Milwaukee, a second-round playoff exit. A head coach is not going to make any in-game or any in-series adjustments who continues to get fleeced by some of the best head coaches in the NBA. And let me also add this. When are we going to start talking about Giannis as such a massive crybaby? He flips out on Sixers arena workers, moving their ladder, nearly getting it to a dangerous point because he wanted to get shots up and take free throws after he missed some critical ones against Philadelphia. He tries to enter the Indiana Pacers locker room to get the game ball back after he had a big game. And then after his head coach in his first year, Adrian Griffin, was at 30-13, the number 2 seed in the East, he calls for his head coach to get fired for Glenn Rivers. This makes me want Giannis to fail, and you already know how I feel about Rivers. So if you want to see a Sixers-Bucks playoff series, I need you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. And it would be our luck that if Doc Rivers and Nick Nurse finally met up, Doc Rivers would win that playoff series. I hope not, though. So for that to not happen, like the video and let's get started. Do the 76ers want Malcolm Brogdon? Let's start there as Sixers trade rumors continue to stay hot. According to reports, the 76ers have engaged with the Portland Trail Blazers regarding a Malcolm Brogdon trade. This report coming from Bret Siegel, who said this: Malcolm Brogdon has been made available in trade talks by the Portland Trail Blazers in recent weeks. Philadelphia 76ers, Orlando Magic, New York Knicks, and Los Angeles Lakers have all talked with the Blazers recently about Malcolm Brogdon. I think that he would be a really good fit for this team. He won Sixth Man of the Year last year with the Boston Celtics. He can play on ball to give Tyrese Maxey a rest. He can play off ball to give you a pretty solid backcourt tandem if you want Maxey and Brogdon to share the floor. Very solid defensive player, good distributor, and a very good three-point shooter as well. The numbers certainly back all of that up. This year with Portland, 15.5 points per game, 5+ dimes, 43.8% from the field, 42% from three. And then last year with this kind of rigid, very strict shooting form, he's really been able to improve his three-point shot over time, as evidenced by the numbers in 2021, 2022, 2020, 2021 to the last 2 years, where in each of the last 2 years, he's been north of 40%. Last year, though, 44%. He was dialing it up with Boston. And if you bring in a player like Malcolm Brogdon, you know what you're getting. Good ball handler, versatility to play on ball, off ball, can knock down the three, and a very good defender. And we know that the Sixers team, let's be real, could use another ball handler on this squad. That's not discrediting what Patrick Beverley has been able to do, but Beverley at this point of his career, and never has been, the offensive player that Brogdon is. With the Bucks, some concerns because he's had injury history, and it's not just with Milwaukee. It's kind of been throughout his entire NBA career. 75, 48, 64 games played in 3 seasons with Milwaukee coming out of Virginia. And then with the Indiana Pacers, 54, 56, 36 in 3 seasons there. And then an elbow injury limited Brogdon for Boston in the 2023 playoffs. I should say, it limited him, but it's not like he played awfully, but Joe Mazzulla couldn't really go to him in playing a lot of minutes because, the elbow injury did hold him back from a certain standpoint of being able to be the player that he was when he won Sixth Man of the Year, and he did miss a couple of games because of that injury. So with that, let's ask you this. Should the Sixers trade for Malcolm Brogdon? That's going to be our pinned comment for today's video, so make sure you scroll on down and get your thoughts in. T for trade or P for pass. As for what a Malcolm Brogdon trade would look like, obviously he's not of the superstar variety or superstar ilk, but a valuable player nonetheless. and an affordable player too, if he can stay healthy. The salary this year, $22.5 million, and then next year, $22.5 million. So you're making this move probably under the understanding that he's going to be with this team the next 2 years, becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2025, 2026. And we're thinking this is kind of what the deal would most likely include. And honestly, I'm totally cool with it, where the Blazers get Robert Covington, Furkan Korkmaz, Daniel House, and then all you really have to part with a couple of second-round picks as well. I'm doing this deal in a heartbeat. Hopefully the Trailblazers can be talked into it as well. Who wins the trade? S for the Sixers or B for the Blazers? I think it's Philadelphia. It helps them in this playoff push. It helps them once they get into the playoffs, and they're not having to give up any assets that really keeps them from being able to use future assets at their disposal in the future. Coming up next here on the show, interesting report from Kyle Neubeck that the Sixers seem to be out on Dejounte Murray. I don't love that because I do like the player. But first, let's get to our sponsor. Factor Meals get 50% off when you use the code NBAChat50. America's best, #1, delivered right to your door, ready to eat, meal delivery service, chef prepared, dietitian approved, breakfast, lunch, and dinner options. But within those options, keto, veggie, protein. As you can see with some of the meat on your screen, with the meals that we're flashing through, they're all savory. They're all delicious. They're all prepared for you. So all you have to do is put them in the microwave and they're ready to eat in just a couple of minutes. So not only can you save time with these meals that are already ready for you to dig into, you can also save money as well. It is factormeals.com/NBAChat50. Get up to 50% off your first order, and you get a lot of different meals within that order. The smoothies are also good. Check it out, factormeals.com/NBAChat50. Now, are the Sixers out on Dejounte Murray? Some reports surfacing that maybe the asking price is a little bit too high, and maybe the Atlanta Hawks are just driving the Philadelphia 76ers out of the potential trade conversations because other teams are offering them a lot more as we get closer and closer to the 2024 NBA trade deadline. And I saw the report from Kyle Neubeck a couple of days ago that the Sixers have kind of cooled on Dejounte Murray a little bit, which is somewhat disappointing because he, like Malcolm Brogdon, can play on-ball, off-ball, but unlike Malcolm Brogdon, we're talking about an all-star caliber player here who also is very good defensively, can knock down the three, can create at a high level, is still a very, very good athlete. And here's that aforementioned report from Kyle Neubeck that the Sixers have started pushing back on the possibility of trading for Dejounte Murray as he's been connected to them more lately. My 2 cents could just be expectation setting based on price, which is what I just talked about. Hasn't been as forceful as with LaVine, but that's where things are right now. And then Kyle Neubeck followed on that. He's doing work for All Philly right now. Used to be with Philly Voice. Pretty unlikely as of this moment. From what I've heard over the weekend, Hawks price still high to try to recoup what they gave up for him. Not a plug-and-play fit for the Sixers either, which matters for a team that has had excellent chemistry and buy-in this year. And that is a little bit of an issue, right? Like, this Sixers team has been fun to watch this year, refreshing to watch because of the chemistry and the buy-in. Often under Glenn Rivers, you'd see players sulking, no adjustments, they get frustrated, they'd go down, and they would just wilt, right? This year, you're not seeing that, and you're also seeing a better coached team. But I actually do think Dejounte Murray would fit on this team, and that's where I disagree with Neubeck because he can play on-ball, off-ball. A lot of people don't realize he stands about 6'5", and I know it hasn't really worked with Trae Young, right, as a backcourt tandem, but Trae Young is an annoying basketball player to play with. He doesn't pass the basketball at all. He's very much like James Harden, where he's going to dribble for 20 seconds of the clock trying to get a good look for himself. It's not what Tyrese Maxey does. It's not what Joel Embiid does. Sixers also play a more team-oriented style as compared to Atlanta. As for the Hawks' asking price, Atlanta looking for 2 first-round picks and a player of value. that's maybe where the Sixers bulk at that asking price. It's like, all right, we can give you 1 first-round pick and a player of value, but 2 first-round picks and a player of value. It seems to the Sixers, they might want to make some moves to improve the roster going into the deadline, but they want to remain and still have that flexibility this offseason. If the Sixers aren't sure Murray's a good fit, then it does make sense not giving up the farm. You're like, we're a little bit uneasy and queasy. Can he play with Maxey? Can he play with Embiid? And if the answer is no, then we're going to give up 2 first-round picks and a player for him. That's where the Sixers maybe are like, let's see what happens as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. His contract, though, very affordable. And it's affordable for a player that I happen to really, really like. $17.7 million in 2023-2024, up to 24.8, 26.7, 28.7, and 30.7. And, look, he's under contract for a little while. So if you do like the player, you know that you have him under control, still a young player, versatility, two-way impact for a little while here. Daryl Morey also seems to be holding out a little bit. We know that he's a poker player. We know that he's always trying to extract great value for some of these moves that he makes because that's how he does business. Now, here's what Daryl Morey did have to say about the NBA trade deadline. Most of the trades that really help teams, in my opinion, happen closer to the deadline. The ones that happen early is usually one team or another team overpaying, so generally those don't help you as much. And look, you look at what Daryl Morey's been able to do when he traded with Harden, when he was with the Rockets, he fleeced OKC, gave up like Jeremy Lamb, and you got a generational offensive player, and then you gave away Ben Simmons for James Harden again. And that was a win because Ben Simmons, the fraud, has barely played it all over the last couple of years. With that, let's ask you another question here. Is this a mistake? Should the Sixers be pursuing Dejounte Murray? Why for yes and for no? As you venture down to the comment section to share your feelings once again, because we value your feedback and your basketball intellect, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Deadline coming up. This is a great time of year to talk basketball because you can get in the shoes of an NBA analyst as well as an NBA general manager to see which moves make sense. It's youtube.com/76ers TV or just hit that sub button right now.